Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. In this video, I'm going to be rating all the crime books that I've read from when I was born until now and rate them in a tier rating list. So these are all the books that I was able to remember and find from everything that I've read so far. There's probably more, but I just don't remember them. So first of all, I'm going to explain the tier list that I've created. We're going to start from the bottom. The bottom one that we have first is Death, No Funeral. Basically, what is this? I would never read this again. I would never recommend it to anyone. It is so bad, it deserves no funeral. After that, we have Jail, because it might be a bit like unhinged and maybe not my cup of tea, but maybe for you. So we're gonna put them in jail. So the next one we have is Almost Detective. So in this one, the detective was so close to solving the case, but just wasn't able to do that. It was the same for me and this book. It was almost there. It did something for me. It sparked something, but it went right back down. And it was an Almost Detective. The next one we have is Case Closed. And this one is basically one that is, it was really good. All the parts of the crime scene and how it was written and how I perceived the book was really good. And I just thought it was a nice case closed book, but there was nothing that specialness about that book that would make me want more of the book. The case is closed and I'm never gonna think about it again. I don't want it to be like that, but it will be if it's in this category. And the final one that I have on the top is Take All My Money. This one will be books that I remember to this day that really impacted me on another level, and they're just so good that I would like to be a part of that investigation, a part of that crime. If that involves me getting robbed or me being murdered, I will willingly do that. Take All My Money, because I just thought the story was that great. So now that we know all the unhinged categories, let's get started with rating. And I'm going to be rating these based on vibes and my experience and how I really felt while I read this book. As I rate them, I will be telling you if I think you should read these books or not. And also, I am going to be needing to open Goodreads on my phone on the side for some books, because some books are just so old, I literally do not remember what they're about. So the first book that we have is, oh my god, Agatha Christie's The Murder of Roger Ackroyd. And this is one of my favorite books of all time. And I think it is known throughout the world how iconic this book is because of the way it's written and the twist that happens at the end. Absolutely love this. And this one is absolutely in Take All My Money, because I would like to be a part of this. Should you read this? Definitely, because I actually read this book twice because of the way it was written. And you just have to read it twice because there is something, I can't say, that happens in the book that you just need to read it again to have, the experience of the book. Next, we have Good Girl, Bad Blood. This is the second book in the trilogy of the book. This one, I have to think about. I did enjoy this a lot. I think out of the 3 books that I read, maybe this was probably the one at the bottom. So, according to that, I guess this will go in Case Closed, because great book. I enjoyed the book. The whole series is just a banger, and you should definitely read this. I just love the characters in this. I like how all the books are just so well connected, and even if you read the first book or you don't read it, I feel like it's still a great book. And if you do read all the books together, they're just like an added bonus. Next, we have so many Agatha Christie books because she's just one of the favorite crime authors. The next book we have is They Do It With Mirrors, and this one will definitely be either in Jail or Death, No Funeral, because I had hopes because it's an Agatha Christie book. However, I do know it is an older Agatha Christie book, which is why the writing style and the way it's written is just not my cup of tea. It was interesting at the beginning. As the book went on and the detective kind of comes in the book, I lose interest, and the main character, Miss Marple, isn't as personable for me as her other characters. I mean, I enjoyed it just a little bit. Maybe let's put them in jail, actually. Or Death. Should I do Death? Let's put her in jail, shall we? So we have another Agatha Christie book, Posture of Fate. This is actually a book that I DNF'd and haven't completed. I tried picking this book up 2 times and I just closed it right back. It was that bad. The book was almost done. Like, I didn't know what they were trying to solve. So this one will definitely go to Death, No Funeral, because I don't think I'm ever gonna pick this one up again. Next, we have another Agatha Christie book, which is The Moving Finger, and for this one, I will take a Goodreads break because I need to remember what this book was about. Okay, so what I'm able to gather, from what I remember, again, I read this like maybe 10 or something years ago. From what I remember, it's definitely not a Death, No Funeral. It's definitely not a Jail, because I did enjoy it. So I think I will put this in Almost Detective, because, also for Posture of Fate, should you read it? No. Don't read it. For The Moving Finger, I'd say yes, you can read it. I think it was interesting and I definitely enjoyed the book from what I remember. Next we have As Good as Dead. This one I feel like was just the most gruesome and visually written book that I have read so far. I think this will lie somewhere between Case Closed and Take All My Money. I think for me, this is so satisfying. There's one book in each category right now. I will put this in, you know what? I think I'll put this in Take All My Money. It was an excellent book. However, I would not want to be in involved in this book because of how gruesome it was, but I feel like it's definitely on top over there because it was a case closed. There was a bow on top of it, there was glitter, there was wrapping paper, and everything was done great. This will definitely be a take on my money. And should you read it? Yes, you should read it. I think every book in the series you need to read. So the next book is another Holly Jackson book, The Reappearance of Rachel Price. This one I had mixed feelings on because it was a great book. It had lots of twists and turns, but it had more than necessary twists and turns that just wasn't really needed. And it was like, oh, this happened. They're like, oh my god, okay. Then it was like, oh my god, but this happened as well. And I'm like, no way. Then they're like, no, but like this happened as well. And I'm like, how much more? I'm tired. So I think this will go in Almost Detective because it took a while for the action to start, and when it started it just wouldn't end. Should you read it? You should read it. It was just really long. Okay, for the next book, taking out the phone again, it's Fool Me Once. This one actually had a Netflix show come out recently and I just watched it, which reminded me what the book was about, but we're rating the book, so I need to go back. This was one of the first crime books that I ever read in my life, and it definitely changed my life. I still remember all the characters and character development that I read, even though this was a long time ago, and I really enjoyed this book. This one would go in take all my money, honestly, because it was that good. So the next book we have is A Traitor in the Family, and this was also another one of those really vivid books that I read because it's a topic that was just so like well described, and maybe a bit too well described, because the murders and just the mentality and thoughts of these terrorists, whatever went in their mind, it was a bit scary, I'm not gonna lie. But I also don't remember the ending too much, so I think this will go in Case Closed. It was definitely exciting. It was a topic which was very interesting. Should you read it? Yes, you should read it. It was a really fascinating and new topic. Next we have our girl Agatha is here again, and we have 5 Little Piggies, or is it pigs? 5 Little Pigs. Go back. I think this is a book that lies in the middle somewhere. I enjoy this book a lot. I enjoy any book with Poirot in it. I think this was also one of the first books I read with him in it, and I loved his mind workings and how he just works with his little gray cells, and I think this would be in a Almost Detective. It did what it was supposed to do. I just don't remember. So this will be an Almost Detective for me. Again, it has been a long while. Should you read it? You should. It was really interesting. Perfect Girl, I distinctly remember, because again, this was one of the books I read a long time ago that I had mixed feelings for this because I found it a little bit boring in the beginning. Towards the end it did get interesting. So I think this would be in, I think I'll actually put this in Jail because I had a good time reading it, but it wasn't that good that I would put it in Almost Detective or Death No Funeral. I think it deserves just a little bit better than No Funeral. And should you read it? Even though I put it in Jail, I think you should read it. If I reread it again, I probably would have different thoughts. And next we have A Murder is Announced. I enjoyed a lot. I was at the edge of my seat until I finished the book. So this one will definitely be in Take All My Money. I would like to be a part of this story very much. I would be willing to be the one to kill someone or just be there on the sidelines. I don't care. I love this book so much, and you should definitely read it. Next we have A Stranger in the House. I think I will put this one in Almost Detective because actually no, I'm gonna put this in Case Closed because I did enjoy this book a lot. I think it was just a well-written book and it was a great experience overall. And should you read it? Yes, you should. Next we have In a Cottage in a Wood. This was a very scary book for me to read because the house was just scary overall, and the things that she was experiencing, I was like, would not want to involve myself in that in any case. So that will definitely not be in Take All My Money because it was that scary. I think I'm gonna put this in Almost Detective. It was really twisty and turny and it was a great book. So, and should you read it? You should definitely read it. So next we have What Happened That Night. Now, not gonna lie, for this one I don't remember my thoughts, but I do remember reading this book. This was very uncomfortable, definitely because of the topic of the book. I think this would be in an Almost Detective. Half a reason because I don't remember much of what she did. I do remember the beginning, going through what she went through, and so I will put this in an Almost Detective. And should you read it? No, this is somewhere that lies in a maybe. I'll say yes, you should read it. Next we have I Thought I Knew You. I thoroughly enjoyed this book actually. I love the dynamic that you are so close-knit with someone and then to come out with an allegation against someone so close to you. I thought that was a really interesting dynamic. So I will put this in Case Closed. This was truly a well-written book. Like each page I was like, oh my god, thought, I think this is happening, I think this is happening. But whatever I thought, I did not know what was happening. The dynamics are really interesting. If you are into that sort of stuff, I would definitely recommend that you read this book. Love this book. I've watched the show of this book, and I just love that all Agatha Christie books, or most of them, have shows or movies related to them. This one will be in Take All My Money because I love it was a bit confusing at first, the amount of characters that were in this, but at the end I was like, it is just so interesting and so juicy as well, how everyone is just linked in like weird and non-weird ways. Definitely Take All My Money, and should you read it? Yes, you should. Next we have Out of Sight. This one I feel like would be either in Almost Detective or Jail because it was a very interesting topic. It was fast-paced, but I think in some places I was getting a bit bored. I think this one I'm going to do in, I don't know, I think actually I'll put this in Jail and not Almost Detective because I really enjoyed this book, but I think there were some parts that just felt a bit, I don't think it satisfied me enough. I'll put her in Jail. Then we have A Good Girl's Guide to Murder. I recently read this, so I remember what this is about. This one will be in No Thought. It will go in Take All My Money because this was one of the first books that I read the past year. That was one of my first crime books. It definitely got me back into crime because I was reading more of romance books. This was a turning point for me in my reading journey, so this will definitely be in Take All My Money. And A Good Girl's Guide to Murder as well. Should you be reading it? Yes. If you haven't read it, I don't know what to say. The Barking Mad is actually a really cozy crime-ish book. This was definitely a cozy read. I will put this in Almost Detective. It was very normal pace, slow pace going book, but at the end it really ramped up, and I just thought maybe at some points it was a bit too chill, which is why I'll put it in Almost Detective. And should you read it? Yes, you should. This one I definitely enjoyed a lot. I will put this in Case Closed. It was a perfect book, I would say. I found the concept really fascinating. I love the couple's dynamic. It was overall just a great book, and should you read it? Yes, you should. You should read it. And with that is the whole me rating all the crime books that I've read so far. We have only one book in Death No Funeral, which just tells you that I don't actually hate books that often. When I put it in Death No Funeral, I meant I actually hate it. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. And if you've already read some of these books, let me know in the comments down below and what you thought about them. Make sure to follow me on my social medias, TikTok and Instagram, posting there every day, so you know. Subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. And if you don't subscribe, maybe you'll be a part of a crime book and I'll be rating your life story over here. I hope you guys have a great crime-free day, and I will see you in another video. Bye.